Hello and welcome, I am Dexba and this is the Buchla 230T, and as you might have guessed, this is an envelope follower. And now I will turn it down because it is pretty annoying used this way, but yeah, this is the very faithful recreation of the original Buchla 233, a triple envelope follower, and that just means it is 3 envelope followers. As for the original, we have all the same controls. We have the sensitivity, so a sort of gain for the sound that has to be analyzed, and that is input here in the metal, very Buchla coded input. Then we have the decay time and the transient or sustained pulse response for both the pulse outputs and the control voltage, and those are just duplicated very again Buchla style. So what we were hearing before when I present myself was the signal coming from this zoom, but you can use contact microphones or even just whatever. You can even touch the cables. They go inside the signal inputs, and there is a lot of gain. Even right now, I'm quite far away from the microphone and it is already picking up my voice. And if we get to higher levels, obviously I can clap my hands, but I can even tap on the table or use my voice because it is already picking up that. As for the patch, what you're seeing here is the signal coming into the signal input, then the gate in transient mode, because I wanted it to be snappy, and we'll hear the difference in a minute, going into the input for the pulse of the sequencer, and also in the pulse inputs for the sample and hold, the 264T, because I wanted those pitch to be quantized, because it was honestly annoying already with the quantized pitch. We can only imagine how bad it would have been with unquantized pitch. Then I am taking the art output and going into that side of the 259, and I'm taking the final output into the B channel of the 292. There is a reason why I'm using the B. It is just because all the vectors are not created equal, and for some reasons the B channel sounds a bit better. It is a bit more plucky if we want. And since I'm using the art output, I'm also getting the gate out from here, so I'm using directly the gate into the 292. So what is happening is every time the 230 gets a transient, in this case, it will advance one step into the sequencer, and the sequencer is sending the voltage and also advancing the sample and hold, so the quantization will go on. So let's hear it once again. I will be silent so I can clap my hands and make it advance at will instead of just chasing my voice. And you should be man, that's the problem of demoing envelope followers and microphones and open microphones. But you should be able to see the light moving anytime I am making some kind of sound. Probably the only patching difference we can talk about with this module, because it is very straightforward, is the different uses of this pulse response. And the transient will always be instant, and it will be kind of like the sustained on the left side turned to the minimum, so let's say 0.1 seconds, and let's try it. No, it isn't. Still a bit snappier, but the difference is that the decay time going up to 5 seconds will affect the pulse outputs too. So it will obviously affect the control voltage, so how long the decay, and this is where you will hear the 5 seconds, but it will also affect the pulse outputs, and maybe I can demo it with the volume turned down, so we can just see hopefully the LED, and it will stay on for way longer. But obviously we will not get the descending ramp of the control voltage output, so the envelope, so to speak, but we only get the transient part. So like, again, it's hard with words. We have so many names for gate, transient, pulse, but the idea is that we will only get when the threshold is met and it is staying high, the signal, where in this case it will immediately turn down, even if the sound is sustained. I will not scream right now to just keep a sustained sound, but you will have to trust me. So this is kind of the simplest patch we can make with the 230T. So just advancing something and modulating something. This is, I forgot to mention, this was going into the timbre is wood, I guess, the timbre input of the 259. And so yeah, modulation and advancing the gate, or even just pinging the low pass gate directly coming out from this output. Let's get more creative with these, that will require a lot of patching, but it can be very rewarding, and it can be a more interesting, not necessarily musical, but musical for a different genre for sure. So again, switch, professional YouTuber switch, let's try. Maybe I should turn on again the envelope follower, and will help with the YouTuber switch. And here there is a patch, so let's hear it first, and then we will talk about this. What we created here is sidechain, and I know it sounds almost silly to just make all of these for just the sidechain of a kick, but I wanted to make all of these within the Buchla realm, and I would say it was quite successful, if I can. Obviously, the power of a envelope follower will reveal itself with more complex drum patching or whatever you want. You can use samples and then get your envelope follower to analyze the signal and then deduce some kind of side chaining from these. What do we have here? We have the kick made with obviously a pitch envelope coming from the first channel here of the function generator into the right side of the 259 on the sine wave output. And then we are using the other side, the left side of the 259 as a base, again quantized with the sequence running here. We are just using 4 of the 5 steps, so we are getting the 4 on the floor bit going with the kick that has been triggered by the programmable pulsar. I always forget the proper names for the modules. And this is also sending the envelope, so we can have some control, and I don't want to fiddle around right now, but the B line is sending the envelope, the gate, the trig for the envelope of the bass line. Then we get to this, which is kind of the only complicated part, because obviously we have to do some mental gymnastic to make all of these work, especially because I'm not using right now the mixer because I wanted the space for the function generator. But we have channel A for the kick, and there is the same trig that is sending the pitch envelope, is also opening the low pass gate. Then we have the B, which is for the bass sound and the envelope of just the sound. Then B channel is going into the C channel, because now we want the sidechain to happen. And for that to happen, I put it completely open and I put it in gate mode, so it is just working as a VCA, always open until it gets the signal, the inverted signal. That's why I'm using the 257, the inverted signal from the envelope follower to close the C line on the 292. Then I'm using the bottom portion of the 257 as an additional mixer, because I do not have a mixer right now. So I'm just using the two sides. And that's also very convenient in this case, because instead of fiddling with levels and many knobs, cables, and whatnot, we just have a sort of dry wet, not of the side chain, because that would have been even more complicated and we would have needed a mixer for that, but just the sound of the side chained signal and the kick itself. So on the left side we have the kick, which is quite a nice kick for being done in a pinch. And I know the side chain is still present, and I will demonstrate it right now. I don't know why it doesn't feel like there is, but you have to trust me on that, because this is the signal without the side chain. So now we have again the kick and the side chained signal, and now I'm removing the side chain. And you can immediately hear how the bass will swallow the kick. So here it is, and I just added this because we have 3 channels for this as a sort of interesting accent, especially if you're going live with modular like this. The problem is always, what do we do after we made the patch, and then we want ways to interact with the patch, and an envelope follower is just straight out the best friend for interaction. It doesn't need to be with a microphone itself. As you see, we are using it with the internal signal of the kick, but just having some way to interact with the patch. We have this with its decay time, and it's going to modulate the length and the decay of the envelope. So and even when I speak, yes, this could be very fun in a live environment. And then again, since we are quantizing everything with the 264T, we have complete freedom of just moving stuff around, knowing we will still be in tune. And one of the things that is always important to remember with this is not all the gates, trigs, pulses, whatever you want to call them, are created equal. So there are some precautions to take, because we, for example, couldn't take the same pulse coming from here, there, because there are some timing issues. And that's also the reason why TipTop created the ART protocol for this kind of very tight integration. Obviously, these modules do not have art, so there can be timing issues, and that's why, for example, I doubled the signal coming from the pulsar to go into the kick, because there were some kind of beatings, phasing. That's not phasing issues, but you get the idea, timing issues. And what else? Yeah, I just wanted to say that it goes with all the tempo you want. Now we're going this kind of down tempo. And then we can quickly add more kicks here on the line A. I'd say that's all for today, and the sky is the limit with an envelope follower. You can use contact mics, you can finally play your Buchla bongos with real bongos, even though I guess that kind of defeats the purpose of making synthesized bongos. And obviously, if you integrate some kind of sampler or sampling in general, even coming from outside Eurorack, having an envelope follower is a great addition. Obviously, again, a mixer will be your friend for this kind of heavy patching and also more oscillators, but I would say the idea was to make everything Buchla, and that's also kind of the relevance that they show still today. We can make some kind of, I don't want to name genres because I always get genres wrong, but house, techno, danceable, 4 on the floor stuff with these modules, which are incredibly, pardon my terminology, but very primitive in the sense, and we already made a beat that we can only just build on top and make people dance, or we can dance by ourselves in the room. So the idea is, this is not a limit. This is not, yes, there is a portion of fetishism in Buchla modules in 2025, but they still have so much to say, even on modern production, dance floors, and whatever. So happy patching, and find as many ways you want to use these modules, and especially the 232. I was Dexba, I still am Dexba, and thank you for watching.